What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris coming at you live as always from the Man Cave. On this day, on this very day, July 17th, the legendary, the great, my favorite, John Coltrane made his transition into the afterlife, passed away 52 years ago on this very day. Those of you who follow my channel and subscribe to my channel, have seen my videos, know my affinity for the great and legendary John Coltrane. Passed away at the age of 40. 40. He managed to be an all-time icon of an entire genre by the age of 40. It's mind-blowing. I'm 5.5 years shy of 40. 5.5 years shy of 40. I've done nothing the world's going to remember me for. And I've done, some stuff my family will remember me for, my friends will remember me for, but the world won't remember me for anything. And not that that's important to me. My family and my friends are what's important to me, but I'm just giving it some context here. The world will forever remember and know the name John Coltrane. His mastery of the saxophone is tantamount to Hendrix's mastery of the electric guitar. It's unprecedented, it's world renowned, and it's just the greatest. And so on this day every year, on Coltrane's birthday every year, I spend Trane all day. On the day of his transition, as he would have wanted to have phrased it, I'm positive, or the day of his death, as the most of us would look at it as, I spend Coltrane all day. Spending Coltrane's not something I need a date for. I'll spend Coltrane anytime. But on this particular day, I've been spending Trane all day. So, turns out, a goal of mine is to have every single record John Coltrane ever played on. That's a goal of mine. It's a big goal. I don't even know the exact number. I know it's a lot. And I've been, kind of crossing them off as I go. I've managed to add a lot over the last 2 or 3 years. I have 73 records in my collection that John Coltrane played on. I'm not even halfway there. I'm not. But I'm going to get there. So what I wanted to do for you guys on the anniversary of the transition of the great and legendary John Coltrane, and the reason I refer to it as a transition in terms of Coltrane is because John Coltrane is revered as a saint in many regions of this world. No bullshit. Look it up. He is revered as a saint in many regions, in many areas of this world. This is a man who beat back addiction. This is a man who mastered his instrument. This is a man who made game-changing, genre-changing moves and albums in the jazz industry. This is a man that will be revered and remembered forever. So on the anniversary of his transition from a spiritual sense, I wanted to show you guys my Coltrane collection. There are a few I don't have that are going to surprise you guys. And then there are a bunch that you've probably never seen or heard of. And I've decided to break this up into 2 parts. Because if I whip out 73 records, this video is going to go 50 minutes. Because you guys know I'm going to stop and talk about a few of them. You guys know that. So I've decided to break it up into 2 parts. The first part is albums that Coltrane himself was the front man of. And then the rest of them for part 2 is going to be albums that I have that Trane played on. So this first part, albums that Trane had his name on as the front man. We'll start there first. So let's go. First one is an album I didn't really have to have, but I did because it's Coltrane. I grabbed it from Dylan, one of his pop-ups, maybe a year ago. It's the best of John Coltrane, his greatest years. Not something I had to have per se because I have the music in other ways, but this is just great stuff. And nothing on it. I mean, Africa is the very first track you hear on it, and that's legendary in and of itself, and it's awesome. So it's a specially priced 2-record set, and it's on Impulse, obviously, an MCA. That's what the label looks like. Too bad it's not that glorious Impulse label. But anyway, it's 2 LP set. It's great stuff. And again, I didn't grab these in any particular order. I just grabbed them all out. John Coltrane, Training In, with Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Arthur Taylor. What this really is John Coltrane with the Red Garland Trio, with the prestige, with the beautiful red on the cover and everything like that. And I recently just upgraded this. I just don't have it yet. I recently upgraded it. And so as soon as my copy that I'm currently paying on gets here, this will belong to somebody. And this is a great pressing. It's on prestige. It's got that Trident label. It's glorious. Any of you guys would love to have it. To my boy Steve, you've already got a few of mine. Why not keep the streak going? My boy Mike, Guitar Player 07. I know you're looking for some more jazz. My boy Hank, Smokestack. I know you're looking for some more jazz. When the time comes, I'll holler at all of you. I'm sure we can hook something up. Next up, Selflessness, featuring My Favorite Things, John Coltrane. Obviously, that's the guy we're talking about right now. It's on Impulse. It's got one of my least favorite Impulse era labels on it. I really don't like that one. There's nothing, that one's just boring. It's dull. They should have never gone away from the red and black. Ever. Forever, ever. This one, my favorite music release in any genre at all last year. John Coltrane, Both Directions at Once, The Lost Album. We Coltrane fanatics were so damn excited about this. As it turns out, our boy Trane, this is the poster, I'm probably going to get that framed eventually. It's the gatefold, had recorded an album in 1963 with, his quartet, Corey Tyner and Elvin Jones and yada, 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 you guys know. And here's the poster that came with it. I'm sure plenty of you guys have probably seen this by now. But this was a big deal for Trane addicts like myself, because we thought we'd heard it all. Turns out we hadn't. And is it completely polished as a full artistic idea? No, not in my opinion. But damn it, there's some good stuff on here. And it makes you wonder how come this never saw the light of day until 2018. But this was easily my favorite release in any genre all year in 2018. Hands down, not close, obviously. I don't buy very many new releases, guys. When I found out this one was coming, I looked forward to it like nobody's business. Next up, John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. Okay, I'm not a big vocal jazz guy at all. A lot of times I don't consider vocal jazz records to even be jazz records. A lot of times. Why do I make an exception for considering this one a jazz record? Well, because it's got the damn John Coltrane Quartet on it. It's got, John Coltrane and McCoy Tyner and, Jimmy Garrison and Elvin Jones. And, and they're doing their damn thing. And then, Johnny Hartman. Man, what a voice Johnny Hartman had. Guys, if I were to recommend one vocal jazz album to anybody, it'd be this one. It really would. If you like vocal jazz, or if maybe you want to listen to some jazz, but you have to have vocals in your life. I don't. But if you have to, if you can get your hands on it, John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. Great record. I only hate that Johnny Hartman in and of himself wasn't more successful as an artist. He had this record with Trane on Impulse, and followed in behind that another record on Impulse, which I obviously also have. And they're both great, but after that his career kind of just sailed off, which is a damn shame. Next one, Meditations, John Coltrane on Impulse. Great stuff. This is his, free jazz era. He had, by then, he had, A Love Supreme had already been made. He was really into the new wave of jazz, as Impulse would put it, the free jazz. And of course on this one is McCoy Tyner and Elvin Jones, but Rashid Ali on drums, and also featuring Pharoah Sanders on tenor sax, who I love. If you guys aren't very familiar with Pharoah Sanders, you need to get into it. And Jimmy Garrison on the bass, obviously. But Pharoah Sanders, one of the greatest tenors ever to me, and also one of the most underappreciated tenors ever to me. So get it into your life, guys. Again, none of these are in any particular order. I'm just picking them. Expression, John Coltrane. I hate the glare from this phone, but obviously this had come out after he'd already passed. What's important to note on here is it's got his birthday, September 23rd, 1926 to July 17th, 1967, excuse me. Very glossy. My copy is in immaculate condition. And over here, of course, you got that famous impulse gatefold. You get his picture from A Love Supreme over here. It's great stuff. Coltrane himself, Alice, his wife, all her releases are awesome as well. Jimmy Garrison on the bass and Rashid Ali on the drums. So you've got a different quartet, obviously, by this point. The one that we had all grown to know and love had gone its own separate ways by then. A couple of the members, McCoy Tyner in particular, had kind of been scared away by the new wave of the free jazz. So him in particular, but I love McCoy Tyner. I really do. Next one. It's always been a fun one for me to say, and I know I mispronounce it because I'm Southern as. Kulu say mama? See what I mean? No way I didn't butcher that. John Coltrane. I've always loved the title, and I love the album, and I love the album cover. I love the picture of him on the cover. That's just a kick-ass picture. I really love it. It's great stuff. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the shading. It's that fly-ass suit. I'm not sure. But I just love this album cover, and I always have. Obviously, always with Impulse, you got to show off the gatefolds. It's just great stuff. And a great picture of him and Pharoah Sanders here. Again, man, you guys, if Coltrane dug Pharoah Sanders, isn't that really all you need to know? Like, I would put that on my resume for life. Coltrane dug him. John Coltrane let me play with him. Isn't that enough? Do I need to put anything else? My application would be like 6 words long. Not that these guys fill out applications. Next up, Coltrane live at the Village Vanguard again. Also on Impulse, obviously. And I told you guys, I knew this would run too long because I like to show off the Impulse gatefolds. I like to talk about these albums and these sessions. This is great stuff. Side 1 of Naima, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song. John wrote for his first wife, obviously. And introduction to my favorite things on side 2, followed by obviously my favorite things. But it's great stuff. Again, with Pharoah Sanders and Jimmy Garrison and Rashid Ali and the boys. But phenomenal album. Phenomenal album. A great listen. His wife Alice is on it. I wish I could have written a song like Naima for my wife. Man, that's awesome. That song, I hear that song and it makes me think about how much I love my wife. So anytime a man writes a song for his wife or his significant other, yeah, it's for them, but you hear it, it makes you think about yours, and man, I wish I could have done that for mine. Job well done. One of my favorite Coltrane pieces forever. Next one. Oh man, it's so great. I love this album. So great. Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. Man, this is good shit, guys. I highly recommend anybody have this. My boy Marcus at DJ Party on Instagram got a first original mono white label promo of this about a year ago. I was jealous to say the very least, but he hooks me up with so much great jazz, it's not like I can be mad at him. But guys, you're talking about 2 all-time legends in Duke Ellington and John Coltrane. That's just all there is. That's what you're talking about. And this album is spectacular, and I return to it frequently. The only thing that I hate about it, well, I don't hate it, obviously. My copy is a Holland pressing, which is great. They sound great. They sound great, but what I want is that first mono with that gorgeous red and black Impulse label. So this one will probably belong to one of you guys someday, hopefully. In the meantime, this one will more than do me. It is a fantastic pressing. It sounds killer. I love it. And the next one is one that is definitely slept on in the Coltrane annals, in my opinion. I also like to upgrade my pressing of this one, and I will, best believe. But Crescent. John Coltrane Quartet, Crescent. This album is so good. In my opinion, it is his most accessible album on Impulse, no doubt about it. A lot of times, you hard bop guys, that are just recently getting into jazz, and after I introduce them to a couple of his albums on Atlantic as well as Blue Trane, after that, and they're like, okay, well, we want more. A lot of times I'll point them in this direction, like, go find Crescent, because in my opinion, it's his most accessible album on Impulse. Because, he made Africa Brass, which was him, really taking a step out there and doing something different. And then he made, a couple of the live albums, the Village Vanguards, to the Village Vanguard again. And, he made A Love Supreme, which was him just now starting to go out to the free jazz way, but it's not completely free jazz just yet. And then after that, of course, you've got Meditations, and you've got Expression, and you've got Ascension, and you've got free jazz. And even I, as much as I love Coltrane, have got to be in a special mood to listen to that, because it's out there. But this one here is some extreme Coltrane sax solos with the familiar quartet of Trane, Tyner, Garrison, and Jones. And it's basically hard bop. It's hard bop with a couple of different, with a couple of the awesome Coltrane free jazz solos. But it's basically hard bop, and it's awesome. And I love it. I would recommend it to any of you guys. And this pressing that I have myself is obviously not my final pressing. It is a promo copy, though, which is awesome. I don't know if you guys can see the stamp up here in the corner, but it is a promo copy. And I got it for like $10 a couple of years ago. So I was happy as hell to find it. This is a 1987 pressing. I love it. I love Crescent. I want the absolute best pressing I can have with Crescent. No doubt about it. It's great, guys. I highly recommend it. If you're not familiar with it, then time to jump on it. Because you've got to get it into your life. Ooh, I combined both of them. Damn, I'm on a roll today. Next up, John Coltrane, The Africa Brass Sessions, Volume 2. Okay. A little later of the release, and this one, of course, is a promo copy as well. I got it at the same time that I got the other one, released in 1974. Of course, you guys are familiar with Africa Brass if you're big Trane fans, because it was his first release on Impulse, and it's got the other red and black labels, which is great. It's a great touch, obviously. This video was going to run a little longer. I still got a stack over here, guys. Next up, Coltrane on Impulse. Yeah, great album. Stereo press, great gatefold. Unfortunately, not the very first. So this is another one that, if I have my way, will belong to one of you guys someday. I love it. It is a great album. It is great all the way across the board. The familiar Coltrane Quartet. Some of the songs are are not Trane originals. Like there's Soul Eyes on side 1, which is a Mal Waldron, composition. For you guys who aren't familiar with Mal Waldron, there's only I think there's 2 Trane original compositions on this album out of 5 out of 5 compositions on the album. They're all great. This is a smoking album. I really enjoy it. It's not the free jazz. It's It's not the free jazz, and it's not exactly your standard. It's not exactly your hard bop either. It's post bop, maybe. I'm not positive. Next up, okay, my album cover for this one has got, you know, a lot of ringware, but the album itself, the record sounds great. It's Coltrane Live at the Village Vanguard, and I got it for I think $12 because I think probably because mostly the cover is just not in that great of shape. This is stereo press, gatefold. I love the album. It's great stuff. Out of all of the Impulse albums I own, it's probably the least sturdy in terms of the gatefold and whatnot. But I mean, it's clearly, whoever owned this one took the record from the sleeve quite a bit. And this, and this is why I store my records on the outside of the sleeves. That's why I do it, so that this doesn't happen. But that being said, this one will absolutely hold me over until I find my very first with a nice, awesome, glossy cover. It's going to work. It's going to help me. It's going to do its role until then. The next one, it's got a vinyl community story to it. Cheers to my boy. Chris has the spins if you're watching, and I'm sure you will eventually. John Coltrane Infinity with strings, orchestra arranged and conducted by Alice Coltrane. All new recording, never previously available. So, there she is. When I got this one from my boy Chris Has the Spins, it was sealed. Very first, sealed. He bought it because it was awesome and it was sealed, but he never really got around to popping the plastic on it. I don't know if he couldn't bring himself to do it or whatever. He didn't get around to it. And I remember I had wanted to sell my my Electric Ladyland 50th anniversary Jimi Hendrix box set. Not necessarily that I wanted to, I just needed to. I was trying to acquire rare jazz. As me, I mean, I love Jimi Hendrix, but I'll drop kick his shit off a bridge for rare jazz. That's just me. Hendrix is easy to acquire. This rare jazz really just isn't. If you want it, you got to make some moves. But anyway, it was sealed. And we had arranged a deal where he would kick in this and just a little cash for my, I think probably like $80 or $90 Hendrix box set. And we made the deal. He sent me this. I sent him that. I was the very first person to ever pop the plastic on it. I've talked about it in another video. I also posted, you know, my very first spin on Instagram, and it sounds great. It's awesome. And Chris Has the Spins, one of my very best friends in the vinyl community, buddy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Stay tuned, by the way. Your Tonto Jump On It contest winnings are soon to be on their way. I'm waiting for a couple more things for you. You won't be disappointed, I promise. Next up, okay, one of my favorite thrift store finds ever. It's Africa Brass. And why it's one of my favorite thrift store finds ever is because somehow, some way, this one's always had trouble getting out of here. Okay. Somehow, some way, I managed to procure a first mono pressing. Beautiful gatefold. I managed to get a first mono pressing for $12 at a damn thrift store. And it's in, as you can see, stellar. It's in beautiful shape. Absolutely. These Impulse gatefolds, guys, are hard to beat them. It's just hard to beat them. They're sturdy. They last forever. I don't even know what kind of damage you'd have to do or what kind of handling you'd have to do to destroy an Impulse gatefold. It's like, do you take it as a challenge? I shall be the one to do it. Give me a knife, give me a lawnmower, give me a weed eater. I mean, what do you do? But it's great. Very thrilled that day. It's not the only one I brought home that day. So I also brought home this one that day. And this is a top 3 probably Coltrane album for me. John Coltrane Ballads. I love it. Coy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison, and Elvin Jones. Honestly, obviously you guys know that by now. I love this freaking record. And here lately I've had my eyes, because this one, I love it. but it's the ABC Impulses, so it's a later. It's an early reissue, but you guys know what I want. You know what I want. And here lately, I've had my eyes on a couple of original mono and stereo pressings on eBay. As soon as I can get, I'm hoping they hold out. I'm hoping that they hold out. As soon as I get a little extra cash, I'm pulling the trigger. And then this copy, this pressing has been promised to my boy Mike Guitar Player 07. But, you know, I've basically told Mike, it will be yours. Don't worry. Might not be today or tomorrow. Might not be next week or the week after, but it'll be yours. I know he's excited to have it. But why would you not be? It's super, super killer. One of my absolute favorites. Okay, this one is one of my favorite pieces in my Coltrane collection, even though I hope to upgrade it at some point. But I hope to upgrade this one in a different way. Let's just say this time about a year ago, I think the number one, or high on my grail list was an original mono pressing of A Love Supreme. It was the very first jazz album I ever heard, and I fell in love with jazz. I fell in love with jazz off of A Love Supreme alone, and it's not my favorite Coltrane album, but it was enough to get me to dive deeper. To get me to dive deeper into Trane, to get me to, okay, Trane played a lot with Miles Davis, so to get me to listen to Miles Davis, and okay, Trane played some with Monk, so to get me to listen to Monk. Seriously, I can break down how I got into jazz and how I got so huge into jazz from the Coltrane tree. Bam, bam. Who did he play with? What records did he play on? Okay, I need those. And then it just started taking off from there. Then a cast of characters on some of these other albums became guys like, I really like that guy. I got to look into him. And so that turned into me looking for these guys. And then that turned into me just being a crazy person, essentially. And which is why all this you see behind you is all jazz. And that ain't even all of it. But anyway, John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. First mono pressing. The only problem I have, obviously, is some bastard. I have no other way to say it, I'm sorry. Took their scissors or whatever and cut that top corner off. So it always bothers me. It's always bothered me because this is an album that means too much to me. This is an album that means too much to me to not have as perfect of a copy as I can have. The vinyl's great. The vinyl, I would say, is after a good cleaning, strong VG plus. So I'm fine with the wax. What I want to upgrade is the cover. And I'm going to get it done, damn it. I'm going to get it done, but I'm not paying $200 for a cover. So I'm trying to get creative. I'm trying to find a way. But anyway, my love for this album will never die, obviously. And, yeah, this is where it all started. This is where the obsession for your boy started with jazz, right here. And I'm forever grateful. And so the album just means too much to me for that. But I got it at one hell of a price just because of that. So now time to upgrade that cover. I've been looking. I look like every other day. But I'm going to make it happen. Next up, when I think of Coltrane and free jazz, this is the first album I think of. John Coltrane Ascension. Stereo pressing. It's not a very first. It's got that ABC Impulse label, so it's not a very first, obviously. I've had a couple of chances to buy very first in the last few months, but passed because people just, in my opinion, wanted too much, and it's for an album by Trane that I just don't return to very often. This is Coltrane free jazz at its finest. The entire album is free jazz. It is absolute, oh my God, free jazz, and you got to be in the mood for that shit. And I'm just going to be honest with you, 98% of the time it's too free for me. I'm a guy who, my preferred lane is, I'm a hard bop guy. I just am. And so I love having this. I keep it forever because it's Trane, but I can't ever say I'm really ever in the mood to return to it because this is just out there. Quote on the back, Trane is now a scope of feeling, a more fixed traveler whose wildest onslaughts are gorgeous artifacts not even deaf people should miss. And that quote is attributed to Leroy Jones. And again, I respect it for what it is, and I'll keep it forever because it's Trane. But man, if you're a novice, if you're a jazz novice, you're watching this video, and you're a jazz novice, please don't jump right into this because I don't want to run you off right from the jump. You know, go find Blue Trane or Giant Steps or Crescent or, you know, Soul Train. Go find one of those. This is freeze. But again, it's Trane, so I love it. Next up is one of the best sounding records in my collection, and one that I was super psyched to get. I got a couple of others of this album I'd like to add, but it's easy top 3 or 4 Coltrane for me. It's the second Coltrane album I heard in my life. This is where I went after I heard I Love Supreme for the first time. This is Giant Steps on Atlantic. Coltrane's Atlantic stuff is great. For you guys out there who want to grab them all and want to, you know, save yourself a little Skrilla, go on Amazon and get the Coltrane Mono on Atlantic box set. I think it's like 7 LPs, and it's like $100, maybe a little more. I had it once, but I already had every other album in a, you know, original format, so I had traded it to get something else. But I had it once, and I won't rule out having it again because as a Coltrane fan, it's just cool to have. But this one's awesome. This is an awesome record, and it's got, you know, Giant Steps, of course, and it's got Naima on it. So right then and there, you know, I mean, you've got a couple of compositions that are just, in my mind, essential. My pressing is a third mono pressing. I mean, but it's within like a year or so, or a year or two of it coming out because they redid these a couple of times. But it's that you know, red and plum label, if you will, on Atlantic. The first 2 pressings, one is the pure black Atlantic label, which is the one, that's the one to have. Not for the look of the label, because that's the true first. And then the other one's the bullseye label. That's the second press. And so this is the third. So this is the third mono press. Even if I got those other 2, I think I'd still want to keep this. That's how awesome this record sounds, guys. It is flawless. Flawless. So good. And I love that album that much. I really just do. Holy shit. Next up, Atlantic. Trane. My favorite things. You guys are familiar with my favorite things, no doubt. Great stuff. I love the album. So good. Personnel, Coltrane on the soprano and tenor. McCoy Tyner on the piano, Steve Davis on the bass, Elvin Jones on the drums. Great record. I'm sure most Coltrane, even, you know, casual Coltrane fans are familiar. Next one is not an original. It's near the top of my grail list. Coltrane and the Prestige 7105. It's got that, you know, of course, the beautiful, iconic Prestige label. And it's a 2012 Analog Productions reissue. So it's a great reissue. But it ain't what I want, and you guys know that. It's a placeholder. It'll belong to somebody here someday. I think Dylan, maybe 6 months ago, Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong if you're watching, got a second mono press, and it's got the yellow and black label, and it's super sweet. I'd love to pry that away from them someday. Who knows? We'll see. But you guys know me. I want that true first. And man, they go for some serious Skrilla. Next up, Black Pearls. Coltrane. That yellow and black Prestige. It's great stuff. Because, man, the group on this one, let me tell you. John Coltrane, Donald Byrd, one of my favorite trumpeters, top 5 trumpeter for me, Donald Byrd. Red Garland on the piano, top 5 pianists for me. Paul Chambers on the bass, top 2 or 3 bassists for me. And Art Taylor on the drums, not spoken about enough in my opinion in the vinyl community, Art Taylor. But another one of my 4 or 5 favorites on the kit. Great cast of characters on this release. I really just love it. I do. I hadn't listened to it long enough, and what better day than today, so I might set this one to the side and throw it on in a minute. Okay. My favorite album, period. Any genre. John Coltrane, Blue Trane original mono pressing. You guys already know how much I love it. I'm wearing a damn Blue Trane t-shirt. If you look up here in the top right hand corner, there's my Blue Trane custom art canvas. And I want to get even more. It's great stuff. You guys have seen it in videos before. 47 West 63rd Street labels. She's a beauty. She's my Desert Island album. If I got banished off to a Desert Island album and I had time to grab one off the racks right before I got sent, that's what's coming with me. There's no doubt about it. I love it. It's got Lee Morgan on the trumpet. I mean, let me pick that back up. It's got Lee Morgan on the trumpet and Curtis Fuller on the trombone. Trane himself, obviously, on the tenor. Kenny Drew on the piano. Paul Chambers on bass. And Philly Joe Jones on the drums. What a record. Ah, damn, what a record. And, of course, it's Trane's only outing on Blue Note. So, man, shame what more. This is long enough to where it could have been a 2-beer video, but I'm not getting up on you guys. Coltrane, Lush Life on Prestige. Also an original mono pressing. That gorgeous label. Had been released, basically had been put out after he went to Atlantic. There's no basically about it. It was put out after he went to Atlantic. They still have some Coltrane that they were sitting on, so they threw this out there. But for something they just threw out there, damn, it sounds great. Trane, Earl May on the bass, Arthur Taylor on the drums, as well as Donald Burbs on the trumpet on the B side of the first track. Red Garland, Paul Chambers, Louis Hayes, Al Heath. For something they just threw out there to still make some money off the Trane that they had in the vault. Damn, it's great. I'm glad I decided to split this up into 2 parts. John Coltrane Dakar on Prestige. This is another one that'll belong to one of you guys someday because this is an OJC. And I highly recommend OJC pressings to anybody wanting to buy jazz albums and buy them on a budget. Coltrane, Cecil Payne, Pepper Adams, Mal Waldron, Doug Watkins, and Arthur Taylor. Great release. Highly recommended. Next one was one I picked up. I can't remember if it's a record store day release or not. It might be. But it's the roulette sides. It's 10-inch. Coltrane and mono. I don't buy very many 10 inches, but I buy jazz 10 inches. And I throw, a lot of times if I just want to listen to Trane, but I'm getting ready to leave the house, it's like, okay, I need to leave in 20 minutes, I throw this one on. And let me listen to some great jazz right before I leave the house. Now I got that Trane 10 inch. It's good stuff, guys. Highly recommend it. John Coltrane, The Last Trane. Prestige. Great stuff. Kept my note from John Galdieri, my friend, because he gifted this to me. It's got that Trident label, and I think that he had thought that I would sell this for something else. But I think you might have took for granted my love for Coltrane, John. This bastard ain't going nowhere. It's a Coltrane I didn't have. It won't leave this house. And it's great stuff. Coltrane, Bird, Garland, Chambers, May, Hayes, Taylor. It's great. This is a super clean copy, and I'm sentimental. Anytime any of you guys send me anything and you send it to me with a note, I always tuck the note in the records so that when I pull the record back out for listening, I can also reminisce over the great person that was so kind as to send me an album for absolutely nothing. Coltrane Jazz, original mono. Got this one probably about 6 or 7 months ago. Yeah. That's awesome. Super clean. Awesome. One of the earliest on Atlantic. Such a good record. I always like to reminisce over these things as I'm talking to you guys, which is why a lot of times if I do a video like this that runs so long. Boy. Coltrane's on it, of course. Tyner, Steve Davis, Elvin Jones. And, you know, all the other numbers, Wynton Kelly also plays on this, as well as Chambers and Jimmy Cobb. It is a great record. Next up, another Atlantic one. Another one of the ones that you would get in that Atlantic Records box set. I would highly recommend that. I really would. It's because it's a good way to get a lot of Trane heat for 120 bucks, give or take. Bags and Trane. Milt Jackson and John Coltrane. Milt Jackson was on so much shit. I can't even tell you how many records Milt Jackson is on. And they usually come a little cheaper. I don't know what it is. Beautiful green and blue Atlantic label. But yeah, he was on so much, man. I gotta tell you. And you know, he's on stuff with Monkey, and he's on stuff with Trane, and he's on stuff with Jimmy Smith, and he's on stuff with Ray Charles. He's on a ton. I'm gonna look up in a little while how many records I've got with Milt Jackson on it. It's probably just as many as I have with Trane, and that's saying some shit. Next one of the ones I was very happy to find, another one of my absolute favorite Coltrane albums, Coltrane Sound. First mono, beautiful, gorgeous, awesome, perfect condition, nothing in this world wrong with it. Man, Coltrane on tenor and soprano on this one. Tyner on the piano, Steve Davis on the bass, and Elvin Jones on the drums. So good, one of my absolute favorites, obviously. Next up, and the last one in my stack, guys, for the ones with Coltrane on, you know, listed as either the front man or one of the two front men. That's basically where I was going with part one. Is the Avant-Garde, John Coltrane and Don Cherry. Great stuff. Highly recommended. You know, they had Coltrane on a lot of these joint headliner albums because why not? He was a rising name, and a lot of times they put him with other, you know, big names like Duke Ellington, like Don Cherry, like Milt Jackson, because why not throw a couple of names on the headline and spice up your profits? I mean, why not do that? So that's my Coltrane listed as front man or co-front man. In part two, I break out everything else I have that he's played on. So I'm not gonna lie to you, the other video might run just as long as this one. I'm sorry, guys, but if you like looking at Coltrane records, I hope I just did something good for you. I hope I just did you a solid. I couldn't help but talk about Trane on the anniversary of his transition. Thank you to John for your wonderful music. Thank you for meaning so much to me. Thank you for meaning so much to jazz heads worldwide. We love you and we appreciate you, and we'll never forget you, and I don't think you'll ever be forgotten. Thank you. Any of those records you don't have, you want to talk about further, you never heard of, you want to talk about further, leave it in the comments. I'd be thrilled. The only reason I didn't go into complete detail on all of them is because I knew this video would be 3 hours if I did. So if you want to talk about them further, drop it in the comments. I'd be happy, thrilled to talk to you guys further on these albums. So until next time, until next video, which will be part 2 on Trane, keep dropping that needle, you guys.